Louis Vuitton is presently valued at over $30 billion. The French luxury fashion house and company was founded in 1854. It is currently considered one of the world's leading international fashion brands. Today, we are going to share the unbelievable true story of how Louis Vuitton was started by a poor, homeless boy. At an early age, Louis Vuitton had no money or even food, and he worked irregular jobs with artisans and craftsmen to fulfill his most basic survival needs. So how did he create a billion-dollar empire? How did he become the pioneer of one of the world's most famous fashion lines? Today, you will learn the untold story of how a homeless boy started his journey and fulfilled his dreams in the ultimate rags-to-riches story, early life. Louis Vuitton was born in 1821 and raised in Anquery, France, in the house of a humble farmer. At that time, France was still recovering from the Napoleonic Wars, and many low-class families, including the Vuitton, faced bankruptcy. Starting from a very young age, Louis worked on a family farm, and he learned how to plant and harvest crops. When he turned 10, his mother died, and his father remarried. His stepmom unfortunately made Louis's life even more complicated, as she showed a cruelty becoming of the villains in most fairy tales. In 1834, when he turned 13, he quietly ran away from the farmhouse and headed to Paris with empty pockets and no food. And from here, his hard work and success started. Fortunately, after leaving home, he found some odd jobs where he learned how to fabricate with metal, stone, fabrics, and wood. But still, he did not have enough money for shelter and stayed homeless. He often slept in the streets with only a blanket to keep him warm. At the time, travel became more accessible, and the upper classes often traveled with paintings, instruments, and other useful things, so they needed boxes that they could carry during long trips. Since Louis had learned some valuable skills on his way to Paris, he decided to try his luck in the trade and began to work the field, turning point. Fortunately, a craftsman named Monsieur Maréchal hired Louis as a trainee. While he didn't earn much, he became a favorite amongst Maréchal's clients in a short period of time, and later, he became the Empress of France's boxmaker. He opened his first shop after working for the Empress for a year and became more in demand later on. After that, he came up with new ideas that changed the industry standard. At that time, conventional boxes were made rectangular shaped. This made the boxes time-consuming to load. To tackle this problem, Louis experimented with new materials and settled on canvas. Canvas was lighter, more durable, and more water-resistant than leather. This allowed boxes to be easier to load. This new product marked the birth of modern luggage and became known as elegant. Afterward, he did the same thing with new inventions. Handbags. At the time, handbags were not adopted by society. Still, Louis believed that handbags had the potential and started making them with canvas, and his hard work truly paid off. The customers immediately became interested in his products, and they put forward more demands for more styles so that women could carry them with different outfits. Eventually, Louis got older, so he enlisted help from his son, George. George also came up with new ideas, like his talented father, that changed the industry standard. He invented a tumbler lock that turned trunks into treasure chests and prevented theft. These inventions made the family's products even more in demand. But soon after, production came to a stop when a battle broke out, and he moved with his family toward the city and left his shop. He stayed away from everything until after the battle was over, but came back with even more momentum and potential in his work. Soon after reopening, the business quickly picked up again, and orders started to come in from all over the world. Louis was now compelled to try out fresh, audacious concepts. Technology at the time allowed for the printing of unique designs on fabrics, so Louis was able to make a range of trunks decorated in stripes, since the canvas is cloth. The new design gained popularity right away, and Louis received so many orders from all around the world that he decided to create a store in London. However, suddenly one day, Louis, who was 72 years old at the time, traveled unexpectedly to his home where he died, and his cause of death is still a mystery. So after his sudden death, George was now responsible for carrying out his father's unfinished ambitions. George made haste to expand the company and visited the World Fair in the United States. He realized after the encounter that he required a global sales network, and fortunately for him, he ran upon John Wanamaker at the fair, who could help him fulfill his ambitions. The tale is so far from over, but this is a good time to remind you to subscribe if you'd like to hear more incredible business success stories like this in the future. Success of Louis Vuitton. John began promoting Louis Vuitton at his New York department store, and he became the first to carry the brand in the United States. George then designed a monogram in honor of his father that features an interlocking L and V in a floral motif. And when customers noticed the monogram on the merchandise, they were astonished to see such a unique logo. After that, George and his son Gaston carried on Louis' legacy by developing new designs. By that time, George had completed a nationwide tour and established a network of distributors. He was destined to expand the company to new heights, just like his father. Regrettably, history kept repeating itself as George passed away suddenly. Gaston was left on his own to carry out Louis' unfinished ambitions after George passed away, but Gaston's luck was not good right away. Contracts were terminated as a result of the outbreak of World War II, and the manufacturing plant and stores of Louis Vuitton had to be shut down. Continuation of the legacy. So Gaston gave the job of re-establishing the business to his sons, Henri, Jacques, and Claude after the war. The sons made sure the new styles of baggage were produced every year under their father's direction. But following Gaston's death, business slowed down as hard-sided luggage lost some of its appeals, and the management of the business separated Henri, Jacques, and Claude. So they requested Henri Resamier, their sister's husband, to take charge. By that time, Henri had established and profitably sold a steel trading business, so he converted LV from wholesale to retail and exploited the Asian market since he had good business sense. After that, sales of Louis Vuitton rose from $20 million to over $260 million in just 6 years. Around that time, Henri also made Louis Vuitton public, and more than 1 million shares of the company equity were sold out. However, Louis Vuitton's stock price started to vary 2 months later, and analysts issued a warning that because of the overflow of fake goods, sales would decline. But Henri continued to open businesses around the world despite this. In a matter of years, he disproved the analyst, and after over $1 billion in sales, Louis Vuitton joined the champagne and cognac maker Moet Hennessy to create the luxury products giant LVMH. Both businesses wanted to avoid the possibility of an outside acquisition. While the acquisition allowed Louis Vuitton to increase its investment portfolio, Henri soon found himself in conflict with Moet Hennessy's president, Alain Chevalier, over management decisions. Henri asked Bernard Arnault, a real estate developer, to be his ally to take control, to which Bernard agreed, but Henri soon discovered that Bernard had other goals. Bernard obtained backing from the Moet and Hennessy families to covertly acquire a controlling stake in LVMH for himself. After that, Henri and Bernard got into a court dispute. Henri was forced to resign by the judges, who preferred Bernard. From that point on, Louis Vuitton lagged behind other luxury brands. Sales fell dramatically because it was a smaller company, and no journalist dared to praise the company in any way. Following that, things didn't start to change until Louis Vuitton, under the direction of Yves Carousel, followed Louis' lead and came up with a fresh, audacious notion. For its 100th anniversary, the business asked designers, including Vivienne Westwood, Isaac Mizrahi, and Manolo Blahnik, to produce handbags with its emblem. Such partnerships were virtually unheard of at the time, and luxury purses were non-existent. However, the partnership was enthusiastically received and brought Louis Vuitton and handbags back into the spotlight. A designer called Marc Jacobs was also appointed by Louis Vuitton to serve as their creative director a year later. By introducing the company's first ready-to-wear line, creating the well-liked Vernaise collection, and working with prominent artists, beginning with Steven Spruce and Takashi Murakami, Marc reinvigorated the business. Since then, Louis Vuitton has continued to release classic bags while also branching out into watches, jewelry, and sunglasses, becoming the most valuable luxury brand in the world, valued at over $30 billion. This is the tale of how a young man who was homeless invented modern luggage and built a multi-billion-dollar business. So what's your opinion about his success story? Please let us know in the comments section. For more inspiring stories, don't forget to subscribe to our channel.